Good morning. My name is Jim Downs, and I am the founder and CEO of Blueprint CFO, a financial advisory firm in Newport Beach, California, headquartered in Newport Beach. And joining me on the webinar today is Mitch Federman, our president at Blueprint. Good morning, Mitch.
Good morning, Jim. Hope all's well.
Good. So today on our webinar, we're going to talk about how to take a true vacation as a CEO. And you might be wondering why a financial advisory firm would be talking about a subject like how to take a true vacation as a CEO. But you you will see soon why we think there's a need for good financial support and discipline in order to be able to feel comfortable to take a vacation. So our first slide talks about the need to take a vacation. Can we switch to our second slide here?
Yes, can someone change slides, please? Great.
So let me just start this slide by saying we feel like vacation isn't a luxury. It's an important thing as a leader to take time out periodically to recharge the batteries. And as an example of that, I'm going to point towards Mitch because he just got back from, I think, a week vacation in Hawaii.
Yes.
And so, Mitch, tell us a little bit about your vacation and the positive and negative elements of that vacation, if there were.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. So, Jim, it's super important. I have found throughout my career that it's extremely important to unplug from the daily grind of work and the week. And so I do try to take quite a few vacations throughout the year. The latest one was in Hawaii, as you mentioned. Went to Kauai with my family. Left. I took about 4 days off, 4 work days, Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday. I find it extremely important when I come back from trips like that, and this was just another example of that. I definitely feel recharged. My brain feels, more clear. There's a lot more clarity. So I get a lot out of those vacations and try to schedule at least, one short vacation like that, 4 days. But also it's important to have some, longer vacations as well. Maybe not every week or every year, but I do think it's important to take a 2-week vacation at some point as well. When you're on vacation, when you get there, it's definitely sometimes takes some time to get into vacation mode, and we'll talk about that later. And then as you start ramping back up, knowing that you're going to start work again as you get home, you start to the stress hormones start to build up again. So the longer vacation really helps to give you more time to recharge. Scientific studies show that vacations and clearing your head really reduces those stress hormones. It improves like sleep, which I definitely saw. I slept so much better on vacation. So I came back well rested, as well as strengthening the immune system. Science shows that you will be a better leader when you come back from vacations. And I truly believe that and have experienced that every single time I do go on vacation. So it's very important to make sure you carve out time. And we're going to talk about how you can do that throughout the rest of this webinar. Also, an interesting statistic that I found was that 50% of managers feel burned out. And so this vacation helps to overcome burnout. If you never take vacation, that just piles on. And at some point, that could come back and bite you, that stress, that burnout feeling that you live with over time. So you need to do something about that. And one of the best ways is just to unplug, as I mentioned. So Jim, I'm going to throw it back at you, Jim, because I know that you take a lot of 4-day vacations, which is mostly Fridays and Mondays taking it off. So what's your feeling? What do you experience when you take those 4-day trips?
So let's go to the next slide, because I think it kind of addresses some of that. So number one, I want to say that a lot of my clients, I work with about 5 or 6 different companies as professional CFO. And I would say if I look at all my clients, they very rarely take vacation. The owner doesn't take vacation. So I need to work on getting them to think about taking a break. But for me, I have been taking a lot of 4-day long weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And that's good and everything, but it really, as Mitch was saying about getting totally disconnected, because you're on Friday and you're still getting emails, and you told people you're going to be out of town, but they're still sending you emails and calling you, and it's really not a good vacation. It's not a real, unplug the phone and don't answer any emails kind of thing. So I think it's really important. So when I take a vacation, it tends to be in this first column, the work mode, where I'm worried all the time about checking my email and looking for any messages or emergencies that have popped up. And we're going to talk about emergencies a little bit. Like, what is
Yeah.
an emergency? Because that's an interesting conversation. And I'm less in the vacation mode. I think Mitch is actually better at being in the vacation mode when he goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, through, early in my career, I kind of learned that when I went on vacation, let's say it's a week vacation, that's, I guess, a fairly normal vacation for folks. It would take me 2 or 3 days to get into what we call vacation mode, because it takes a while to stop thinking about what you were doing and what you still have to do and what's going to happen when you get back and all that kind of thing. So the key is really to try to transition to vacation mode as soon as possible, so that you can really benefit from the relaxation and the clarity in your head. Start to build that clarity. And by the way, as you're able to, I guess I look at it as a reboot, just like you reboot your computer. Like, when your computer is glitchy. In fact, I did it this morning. You reboot your computer and now it feels fresh, right? And it's kind of the same thing for your brain. Um, so at the end, you've rebooted, you have clarity. It allows you to be a lot more creative. And again, I experience this every time. So um, it's super important to be able to transition to vacation mode quickly. Don't take 2 to 3 days to get there. And then what happens is if you're on a week and you take 2 to 3 days to really relax and stop thinking about work and the business. And then on the back end, the day before you leave, you start thinking and start ramping back up. So you're on a 7-day, 8-day vacation, but it takes you, you waste 3 to 4 days of it transitioning into the different modes. So the key is really to get to vacation mode as quickly as possible. And one way to do that, and the way that I do that, is know that I'm not going to be looking at anything for the business while I'm gone, right? If I know, hey, I don't have to worry about it. I don't have a phone call tomorrow. I don't have this spreadsheet I have to create tomorrow. Then it allows me really to transition really quickly to vacation mode and take advantage of that very first day of vacation. Love Hawaii. I'm sure everyone loves Hawaii. I find that place, for some reason, gets me to vacation mode literally the first step on the island. One reason why I just love going there. But you just need to work hard to make these transitions from vacation mode quickly, and then don't worry about work until that first minute you get back to work, right? So don't waste any time on your vacation with the transitions. So
that's so hard to do, because I'll go back to my example, and that is, I don't do a good job of planning ahead when I'm going on vacation to make sure that everything is delegated and that people are aware that I'm not going to be there, so they have to handle these things for me. I'm not good at planning, and so planning is not one of my strong points, as Mitch will point out, I'm sure, during my career working with him. But not only that, I also have this feeling in my head that nobody can do it as good as me, and that is not healthy, because if you want to build a great organization, it can't all depend on you. And again, I see within my client base, we work with about 50 different companies that blueprint, and quite a few of them are really dependent on the entrepreneur that founded the company. They're still making all the decisions. There's lines outside their door when I go there of people with problems that need to be solved, and instead of relying on a system of approvals or decision making, it all comes back to the entrepreneur to make the decisions, which is not a healthy way to go run your business. That's
Exactly.
what we're going to talk about.
Yes.
Next slide. So I'll let Mitch do this about, let me just kick it off. So basically it's, we're talking about guilt. When I'm leaving, I feel guilty that I took time off and then I'm not there for my team and then I'm not, helping the company grow. And so because of that guilt, I don't take as many days off as I should. So
Yeah.
let me kick it
Yeah.
over to Mitch on that one.
Right. And the way I handle this is I realize, and it's taken me time, right? I'm earlier in my career, I wasn't able to do this, but I'm able to understand now that it's not really an option. I have to take vacation. I am so much better off. And that really helps to deal with this guilt issue. Um, and so I, just make sure I understand and make sure everyone knows what I expect for them while I'm gone. And as long as I feel comfortable that I communicated correctly, guilt is not an issue I have anymore as I go on vacation. So it's just, I think it's practice, and make sure that you just keep disciplined about your vacations. They're time for your family. They're not time to catch up on work. And right, like your family in your day-to-day life tends to come last. And that's not right, nor it's fair to them. And so to make up, the vacations, it's 100% the folks that you're with on your vacation. No guilt that you're not looking at the business.
So Mitch, we have a common person that we work with, and they're going on vacation soon. And you asked them about, are you going to be working when you're on your vacation? What did they respond to you?
Yeah. So this gentleman is like, oh, I'm going on vacation, but I'm going to be working throughout the vacation. And you know what?
It's not a vacation. That's
It's not a
crazy.
vacation. It's a work trip, right? You're right, Jim. It's not a vacation. And I told him that, hey, like there are people here that can help while you're gone, so you don't have to do so. So he does admit that he just has a tough time doing that, unplugging, as do several executives. But again, you just have to. It's like exercising. You just have to do it. You just have to do it.
Many companies, require a sabbatical periodically for executives to go away for 2 or 3 months.
Right.
And, that may sound horrible. And you may think like, wow, when I come back, maybe they'll realize they don't really need me. But it's so healthy because when you talk to people that do that, they feel so much energized when they come back to work and they're ready to go. And because you don't realize every day there's a lot of stress in business and you're wearing yourself down, and without time out and rest time, you're just not going to be at your top performance.
Yeah. Right. And I get the last bullet there, I think is important to just address real quick, right? Like 52% of senior leaders feel that no one else can perform their job duties. That just to me says that there's delegation issues and training issues. And we'll talk about a few things that hopefully can help these senior leaders that have this feeling of not being able to trust anybody. But that is something that you have to build into the organization in order to you'll go away without feeling guilty. All right, next slide.
So why does all this happen? Why do people feel like they have to be there or otherwise the wheels are going to fall off the wagon train? And a lot of it is because there isn't a plan in place to run the business. And so the business is a crazy house every day. Every day there's a fire drill and, there's a problem that needs to be solved. And people are taking off, what they're currently doing and sent to do, ship out product or go into the warehouse and reorganize the warehouse or, do things that they're not supposed to be actually even doing because there's not proper resources or processes in place to run the business properly. And number one is having a plan, especially at the leadership team level. Everybody should know what the plan is and what their role is in the plan. And if somebody's going to leave and go on vacation, their role needs to be picked up by somebody else, and shouldn't be like every single part of the business is going back to that entrepreneur. It should be delegated down to the people on the team. We work with our clients to create a one-page strategic plan, which is super powerful because most companies, when we get them as clients, don't have any kind of written plan. And so our part of our name is Blueprint, and the reason we call it Blueprint is because we want to help our clients create a plan to grow their business and make more money and improve their cash flow.
Yep.
Anything on this?
Yeah, Jim, just like with a plan, it just helps you feel comfortable that while you're gone, that plan is being the blueprint and the plan is being followed. Everyone knows what they need to do. They know when due dates are. They know who's responsible for it. So it just business continues to run without the CEO or business owner by following the strategic plan. So the upfront time, not only does it give you a target for the business, but then it will allow you to take this time off knowing that people know what they're supposed to do and when they're supposed to do it. So hugely important. Love working with my clients to build out these strategic plans and a process and build the process to manage to those plans.
Well, I'll just give you an example, and that's Blueprint CFO itself. We do a 2-day annual planning meeting where we talk about the year that just is ready to wind up and what the next year looks like and what our goals and objectives are for that year, which is very important. So those objectives could be in sales and marketing, operations, finance and accounting, HR. There's all kinds of different things going on in any business. Plus, we do a quarterly meeting where we review the progress for the quarter and set the goals for the next quarter. And then plus we do a weekly meeting we call the L10, where we spend an hour and a half, 90 minutes every week, which is hard to believe, talking about how we're doing on our goals and objectives and what issues are popping up that we need to solve. And, it's been, when we first launched it, I thought 90 minutes every week is crazy. What are we going to talk about? But every time we do it, we run out of time. And we don't get to everything we want to talk about in the 90 minutes. So I would say, most of my clients don't do that. They don't take time out to do planning. And so, then the company ends up running like a circus. So very important to, and we can help our clients or anybody out there that's listening to this, set this up. It's not very expensive really when you consider how important it is.
Yep. Next slide.
So, part of any strategic plan comes back down to quantitatively identifying whether you're on plan or not on plan. So that starts with key KPIs, which are key performance indicators. What are the things that we should be watching every week or every month for a certain company that are important, are the things that are going to be making or breaking, whether they are profitable in a certain month. Those can be done on a dashboard every week or every month in a monthly financial package. And those KPIs should relate to goals around that. So an example might be in manufacturing, be scrap. We want to reduce the scrap rate on our making of our products, because if we have very high scrap, we're going to end up throwing a lot of stuff away that we make, and our profitability goes down. And so, being able to make sure that we're getting the data in an actionable format is super important. It goes beyond the balance sheet and income statement, but diving deeper into the operations of the business in terms of what makes the company tick and how can we move those needles in a positive direction so that the company does better.
Yeah, agree. And I think that if the data is visible to the leaders of the organization and the manager of the organization, then there's another comfort feeling for the business owner that the managers and leaders understand the business in a deep way, that they can, as it says down below, ask fewer questions, not need to come to the business owner every time there's a question, but can actually answer them themselves. And as a business owner, you don't want to be that bottleneck. You don't want to be the business completely rely on you. In fact, the business value actually increases as as the business is less dependent on you. Any business that's dependent on one person is tough to scale. So it is something that has a ton of benefit besides allowing you to go on vacation, but it also can help if you're looking to, divest or sell the business. It can help drive the valuation as the business is its own independent entity from you, which is an important aspect. Okay.
Another thing that's on this slide is the SOPs, having standard operating procedures. I'm working with a client right now. It's a fairly big company, and their CFO left about 6 months ago, and I was brought in as fractional CFO about a month ago. And what I found out was that the old CFO that left had created standard operating procedures for accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll. But after he left, everybody just started doing whatever they wanted to do, and nobody's following the SOPs anymore. So when I got into how they're paying their bills, which is crazy because they order something and the people that order it don't approve the payment, but they go straight to the accounts payable department and they don't know whether the good or service was actually received or not, because nobody from the department that ordered the good or service has approved it. They end up kicking it back, and so there's just a lot of inefficiency and a loss of operational efficiency because they're not using SOPs. And so SOPs are important because then everybody knows when there's these kind of problems, here's how we solve them. And you don't have to be going to the boss and asking him, Joe Blow didn't get his order this week, so what do we do? It's all in an SOP somewhere.
Right. All right, next slide. All right, so of course emergencies do pop up, and how to, some ideas of how to handle emergencies while you're gone on vacation if you've unplugged. I actually didn't even bring my laptop.
Well, first of all, what is an emergency, Mitch? Because
that's a great question.
You could say everything's an emergency.
Yeah, and the first bullet point, you really have to define what that means. What is that emergency? So a couple things around, once you've defined that, if the emergency pops up, what do you want your staff to do? So a couple different processes you can put in place there. What works for me, and I think is a pretty reasonable suggestion, is if they need to get me because they think it's an emergency, again, that's predefined what an emergency is, they'll text me with the 911 in my at the text. And that way I know to go look at email or to give them a ring back. We also, what's important is that we've segregated the different kind of communication channels. So most of our chat within the business is done through Teams and not through our personal texting. Of course, we do some personal texting, but I and the team really try to use Teams as our business texting and chatting. So that way, when I'm on vacation or after hours, I can not have those interruptions through, on your text for just specific or very, non-emergency things. So that way, when I'm on vacation, I don't really check my Teams because I've told my team that if they need me, there's an emergency, text me 911, and then I know I need to get involved. And I don't look at Teams while I'm gone because even if you look at Teams and it's not an emergency and something comes up on Teams, it brings you back to work mode and out of vacation mode. And that's not a 1 second change, right? Like it takes time for your brain to transition in back and forth between those two modes. So you may kill a half a day because you accidentally looked at your Teams meeting or your Teams chat and there's something there that bothered you. And now you're thinking about it. And then you might have an urge to respond or call. And it's a non-emergency. So like get into vacation mode and stay there. And the way I deal with emergencies is if someone has one, they 911 my text. And that really, really works well for me. The other thing is, an escalation path. Like you don't want all employees to have that ability to 911 your text. So make sure that you've defined an escalation path. That's super important. The other thing is if you build this correctly, this also works not just with vacations, but also, your child's soccer game that you want to be totally present for, or a family dinner that is really important that you don't want interruption. So it's a way to really separate and compartmentalize your personal world and your business world, which I find very important for myself.
I mean, in reality, there should be very few emergencies. You know, the reason there's emergencies is usually because you haven't delegated properly, or and, well, that's probably going to be mainly it, and
Yeah.
or you just you know, are not willing to disconnect, and you're constantly asking people if everything's going okay, and they feel like they should communicate with you and tell you things that are happening that they might need some input on. But really, there's should be very little. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't even imagine one that would be so important that you should upset your vacation. Maybe a client quits or is upset or something, but I don't know. I can't imagine it.
Right. As long as you've structured the business the right way and done some of these SOPs and communication and have your strategic plan in place. So and if we go to the next slide, it's the next piece, and that is really providing financial clarity to your team, so that everyone understands the business at a depth that they can make decisions. Without the financial clarity, without knowing, you know, your information and not having visibility to your financial data, makes it difficult for these other, you know, managers to make decisions. So very important to provide financial clarity to the team so that they understand what their goals are. This financial clarity and the reporting dovetails into the strategic plan as well. And as you can see, the SOPs ensure, you know, everyone knows how they're supposed to do things as well. So very important that you have some financial reporting that provides this clarity. Dashboards are really important. We talked about earlier, and you can create them simple so they can be red, yellow, you know, green stoplights based upon the data. That could allow, you know, a leader, if they're on an extended vacation, the ability to just peek at that red, yellow, you know, green if they absolutely have to. But yeah, extremely important to understand your numbers and have everyone have visibility to that as well.
So I always think about this when I'm looking at a client's business or even Blueprint's business. You know, is it run like a tightly run ship? So, you know, ships are organized by department, and certain people are in charge of the engine, and other people are in charge of steering, and other people are in charge of the meals. And, you know, I would want to, if I'm working for a company, I want it to be thought of as a well-run ship. And to say most businesses aren't, you know, but it's really something that should be a goal for the owner, is to make it a tightly run ship so everybody's proud of the company. That, you know, it's got its act together, and it knows how to make decisions when there's things that pop up, and that you know, it doesn't always have to be that the owner can't go on vacation because he or she is so involved in all the decision making. It comes back to all the things that Mitch and I just talked about.
Yeah, agree.
So think, any business owner out there listening to this, think about whether you would think you would describe your company as a tightly run ship. S-H-I-P. S-H-I-P. Make sure I pronounce it correctly.
Yeah. Next slide.
So just one, you know, for a little advertisement for Blueprint, what we do is come in and become accountability partner for our clients using their financial data and operational data. So we are kind of the catalyst for taking the company from being an entrepreneurially solely run business to more of an organization that runs through metrics and SOPs and all the things you need to do to scale. So, you know, if you're a business owner out there and you know, you think you might need some help with that, you would think Blueprint CFO is an accounting company, but it all comes back to the data. The data is your scorecard of whether you're achieving your goals or not. And so if you're not achieving your goals, then the data points the way towards why it's not working, and maybe things that you should be doing different. And I believe that, you know, having done this for many years, that most companies need some help in that arena, improving accountability and goal setting, and having data that's current and accurate to track whether they're on plan or not on plan. And that's what Blueprint CFO is designed to do.
Next slide.
So we have, as we have said many times on our other webcasts or podcasts and webinars, we have 6 CFOs and 12 accountants. We work with about 50 different businesses now, and we're growing. So if you need help with your accounting department, getting it to improve its performance, or you need insights into your data of where you could be more profitable or how to improve cash flow. If you need a new line of credit from a bank, we're expert at finding lines of credits, and we know which banks are doing what kind of deals. Or if you're preparing to sell your business, that's an important thing. You should run your business as if you're going to sell it, because that will maximize its profitability and its well-run shipness.
Yeah, that's value. Yeah.
And another thing I skipped there is managing cash. And so, everybody likes to, as a business owner, come in the morning and log in and see how much cash they have. But it's important to understand the dynamics of the cash, what's generating cash and what's using cash. So you really need to get into the details of how the cash got to where it is. And that's, again, something that a profitability partner can help you with.
Great. No, vacations are extremely important. I would work as a business owner very diligently to create a space so that you can take the vacation without your computer. That would be the goal. So, great. Thank you all for attending.
Oh, we have some questions and answers.
Questions.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. Let's see, I'll take it. Well,
I would say 4 days. 4 days is max. No, actually,
no.
I would say at least a week, but
a week is a good amount of time. Yeah, I would say a week would be optimal. 2 weeks would be great once in a while, but at least a week at a time.
I have nothing other to add. Personally, I think the longer the better. I love the idea of a 3-month sabbatical. I can't cross that bridge myself, but it's definitely something that would be very valuable, I think, to just take time out and rethink everything. And you get really caught up in the daily grind, and having the time off where you just don't think about business for a while is super important, I think.
Yep.
And any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll let Mitch weigh in on this, but it really comes back to you as the entrepreneur. Number one, you have to trust your team, and sometimes, to be honest, frank, sometimes the people that got you where you are today are maybe not the people to take you to the next level. So if you have people on the team that aren't really delivering, and you don't really have the evidence because you don't have goals for them in place so that you're measuring them against, you're, I want to say, in a world of hurt, because you're not going to be able to take a vacation because you can't delegate. So it's important to evaluate your team, but then it's also important to challenge them with goals and objectives so that they can step up and deliver. And, everybody comes to work and wants to be important at the business. And if they don't really know what they're supposed to be doing, you're putting yourself in a bad position. So it goes back to having goals and accountability. And if people aren't achieving the goals, then you have to look at where the goals fair. And if not, if they are fair, but they're still not being accomplished, maybe you have the wrong people on your team.
Mm-hmm. And you said delegate, Jim. I think that's super important, right? You got to really learn how to delegate. And it's not throwing a task over the fence. It's more active than that. If it took you 10 hours to do it, if you delegate it, maybe it's going to take you 1 to 2 hours, but there's still work there for you. But it is important to understand you've got to delegate, and you have to learn how to do that well. That will help you create some space for the vacation.
I'll just say this, and I've said this before, that most entrepreneurs have a business, and a lot of times they maybe have inherited the business from their family. Their father started the business; they have the business now. But even if you just started your own business, and we have clients that in construction, they started doing drywall and they ended up owning a general contractor. the thing is, they've never been trained in how to manage people, and so they don't know how to manage. And it starts with having goals and objectives and evaluating the team. And you can't have a great company if everything comes back to you to make all the decisions. So I think there's probably a need for training on management, how to manage people, because a lot of owners of companies have never really been trained in how to do that. And you have 50, 60, 80, 100 people reporting to you indirectly. And, if it's not well managed, it could be underperforming significantly. So think about that.
Great. All right.
Any other questions? Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap up our webinar for today. And if you're interested in finding more information about Blueprint, go to our website, www.blueprintcfo.com. You'll see Mitch and I on that website with our bios and all the great things we've done in our career. We're having fun doing what we do today, and good luck in the future, and onward and upward.
Enjoy your vacation. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Mitch.